Peggy, you spoke of civil society, and you also mentioned the other superpower. And I know that after the massive demonstrations in the streets to try to stop the war in Iraq, that this became a feeling that we have such massive power in the civil society networks. And now we also saw with the Obama election in the United States a tremendous drawing of civil society into the political system. So it does seem quite hopeful.
Oh, you're right, Tana. It's hard to take in. This is such a huge change and a huge cultural shift, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
and people, I think, are just now becoming aware that we have this incredible, not only this incredible organized society around us, the people's lives becoming very oriented towards very positive things, but also realizing that we do have power.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very, very remarkable thing for a people to feel empowered.
Yes. I think that some people have felt that even though they are in the streets, they're speaking out, they're working in their networks, that their voices have been suppressed by the media and by some of the dominant governments. But we know ourselves that we have those networks in place, and that I think they will start to be heard more and more as we see the systems collapsing around us. So it's like we've laid a huge groundwork, and that's hopeful.
Right. Well, maybe some systems might collapse, but at the same time, we have the power to create new systems.
Exactly.
And to be building while other things are fading away. And perhaps we have to look at this financial crisis in the same way, as seeing it as an opportunity. There's no point in us going back to doing things the way we've always done them.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be very creative about what kind of change is it we want, what kind of change can we put in place.
Yes. Well, you and I are both involved with the local food economy here and trying to preserve land and make sure that we have food security for the future. I think that's going to be one of the really important things, and that's a shift in economy to a more localized production.
I think that's the key, is the local. Because as soon as you bring in the local, people just get on board.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing this with this developing of our food economy. You know, while we were just talking about land, yes, people were interested, but as soon as you start talking about food, that's universal.
Mm-hmm.
And if your food supply is at risk, people are going to get involved.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're going to have to look at the global picture too and realize that there will be some countries that will suffer because of climate change. And I just read Gwynne Dyer's book, who said that we may end up with northern states with nuclear missiles keeping other people out. So again, this nuclear issue is absolutely crucial as we explore this changing context, is it not?
That concept seems to be becoming recognized, whether it's in the context of the threat of climate change or not, but it's certainly, there's a new urgency about the nuclear threat, and President Obama and President Medvedev meeting and agreeing just a week ago to a deep commitment to radical, deep reductions of their arsenals and a commitment for nuclear abolition.
That's something new.
Extraordinary. So,
it is.
And so that's the first step, and it's not going to be easy. It's going to be fraught with problems. I can see that. So civil society is going to be very necessary. We can't let up just because they are saying, oh yes, we're going to get rid of all these weapons.
That's right.
No, we have to keep at them and keep the pressure up.
Well, that's exactly why we felt that Voice of Women for Peace can play a role here in educating the public and women in their various groups and communities across the country about this full spectrum nuclear impact. Because I think in the past, people have not clearly seen the link between uranium mining and nuclear energy and nuclear weapons. So Voice of Women has always clearly seen that.
Yeah, that's right. And women need to find their voices again, you know, because women are very passionate about these things. They care very deeply about it. So they must put that passion into words and into action and commitment. And I see a role for younger women too. Young women, whether they're still in school, they can be creating peaceful schools and learning about the needs of the world. And so there's something for every age.
Yes, well, it's why it's so important that we reflect back on our early origins as an organization, because it was very much about women in their communities and in their families playing a role in identifying the terrible threats around nuclear proliferation and nuclear testing. And so I think that what we're looking for is to find a way to engender that same kind of interest in getting involved as we found in our early days in the 60s.
We have lots of help now too. I look to these organizations that are research oriented too. That's an enormous support to the NGO movement. When you think of what, not just around the nuclear issues, but what groups like the Centre for Policy, Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, what they offer, and the Suzuki Foundation, and the Pembina Institute, and World Wildlife Fund, Oxfam. They're just ever so many of them, and are wonderful resources. And
well, you know, as you mentioned these, particularly the large environmental NGOs, you know, it really brings to the fore the fact that as NGOs, in the past we have operated somewhat in silos. We've each had our own issue. And we're seeing now, as this global perspective starts to emerge, that the NGOs are merging. And so in this conference you'll see Ontario Clean Air Alliance and Greenpeace and groups, peace groups and environment groups coming together because they see that the issues are interlinked inextricably. And so this is a very good development.
And on the internet too. That less-than-350.org, keeping our greenhouse gases to under 350. That's powerful. That's massive audience, massive participation.
Right. Yeah. Well, we should be hopeful that there may just be a global mind shift emerging that can make the difference that you and I have always wanted to see.
Oh, I think so, Janet. Yeah, I think so.